Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents the Inner Bonding Workbook, 6 Steps to Healing Yourself and Connecting with Your Divine Guidance, by Margaret Paul, Ph.D. Foreword by Catherine Woodward Thomas. Narrated by Erin Deward. Publisher's Note. This publication is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is sold with the understanding that the publisher is not engaged in rendering psychological, financial, legal, or other professional services. If expert assistance or counseling is needed, the services of a competent professional should be sought. Forward. There are 2 faces to all spiritual traditions. The first, of course, is religion, which offers rules and regulations that all good followers must do their best to adhere to. Yet the second is mysticism, that which initiates us into the deeper, more enchanted and magical dimensions of life through the cultivation of a direct connection with the divine. The poet Rumi described it this way: I looked upon every cross in every church, yet he was not there. Then I looked within my own heart, and there I found him. He was nowhere else. While poets, saints, and sages have written about this sacred and deeply personal dance with the divine for millennia, mysticism only became available to regular folks like us in 1938, when philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson stood before the graduating class of Harvard Divinity School to boldly declare that Jesus was simply an example of what's possible for us all when we open ourselves to cultivate a direct relationship with the divine. It became a huge scandal, and he was quickly renounced as an atheist. He was not invited back to Harvard again for another 30 years. Margaret Paul is such a rebel, sticking her neck out from the safety of her psychological credentials to again share the good news that we are, by nature, connected to a force and field of life greater than us that is designed to guide us in the direction of our greatest good. By sharing her step-by-step process of how we can connect with our own deeper knowing to find our way home to wholeness, and then allow our knowing to guide our growth journey, Dr. Paul defies traditional psychology and opens a portal that promises to shave years off our time sitting on the couch trying to sort through the rubble of the past. As Emerson did in his day, Dr. Paul now encourages us to begin relating to God as our partner in life, rather than as a glorified and somewhat scary parent in the sky. She inspires us to grow our ability to be modern-day mystics who are fully capable of hearing the voice of truth, wisdom, healing, and love within ourselves whenever we go within to listen. I must admit, I'm relieved. For all these years, we have blindly followed the psychological prescriptions of those educated in the ways of the psyche, as if they knew better than we ourselves did how we could get well and heal. Though my psychotherapists were all deeply well-meaning and had years of education under their belts, never once in my years of personal therapy did any of them suggest I close my eyes to connect with my own inner guidance to help me solve some of my most pressing problems. Nor was I ever taught, in my many years of graduate training while I studied to become a licensed therapist myself, that I should do this with any of my clients. So, the brave Margaret Paul is also the brilliant Margaret Paul, for I now know firsthand that she's right in what she's saying, that until we have this awakening to the wisdom within, we will chase our own tails by endlessly analyzing the past rather than knowingly navigating our way to well-being and wholeness in the present. Having had the privilege of teaching tens of thousands of people over the past 20 years, I can attest that this capacity to turn within, to find and follow our own intuitive guidance, is one of the most important keys to being liberated to create happy, healthy lives that are no longer weighed down or defined by the traumas of the past. The other piece Dr. Paul so beautifully teaches in this treasure of a book is how we can cultivate a relationship with our own inner child. Like the rings printed inside the trunk of a tree, we carry each stage of our lives deep within. And when a wound remains unresolved, that particular ring in our psyche can cause us to unconsciously behave in ways that re-wound us time and time again. By following Dr. Paul's protocol, we can finally put to rest the hurts of the past and be free to live rich, full lives, keeping only the compassion and wisdom gained and releasing the rest. All this is to say, you are in good hands with my friend, Dr. Margaret Paul. Having picked this book, you are now in for the healing ride of your life. Savor the wisdom she offers, for truly it will awaken you to the pathway of inner peace and unleash a new sense of purpose and delight in your life. Catherine Woodward Thomas, New York Times best-selling author of Calling in the One and Conscious Uncoupling. Introduction. The Joy of At-Will Divine Connection. All of us would love to know for certain that we are on this planet for some purpose, that we are not here simply to suffer, to feel empty and alone, anxious or depressed, but rather to joyfully go through life with inner peace and creatively manifest our passion and purpose. What would you give to know that you are here for a reason? You are never alone. You are always being guided in your highest good. You can learn to access this guidance moment by moment, and your connection will give you the ability to joyfully manifest your passion and purpose. As a young woman, I would have given anything to know that these were even possibilities for me. I was stuck with false beliefs that I had absorbed growing up, beliefs about who we are, about what we can and can't control, about what life here is really about, and about what the divine is or is not. This kept me feeling limited and stuck, suffering from anxiety, depression, emptiness, and aloneness. I was disconnected from myself, from my feelings, and from the love and wisdom of spiritual guidance. While some people feel disconnected because they are taught that God is a judgmental man in the sky who is always watching them, and that they will be punished in hell for their sins, I wasn't raised in a religious household. I wasn't taught that there was anything higher than my own limited mind. My parents were atheists, to whom the idea of God was anathema. I often heard my father say, with a very judgmental tone, "Anyone who believes in God is just using that as a crutch." Yet even from my youngest days, I had a deep sense that I was not my body, and that there was a source of knowing available to me, but I had no idea how to access it. I had no support for developing my spiritual nature. I suffered from rather severe anxiety. When I was 5, my rageful, narcissistic mother, believing that my anxiety was my fault, brought me to a psychiatrist. After speaking with each of us, he told me to tell my mother to stop yelling at me. I clearly remember thinking, "You tell her. I'm only 5 and she doesn't listen to me." My next thought was, "I can do a better job than you." And that's when I decided I wanted to be a psychologist. I was a sensitive, empathic, and compassionate child, and it took me many years to understand that neither of my parents was remotely capable of any sensitivity, empathy, or compassion. They were often in pain, and being sensitive to others' feelings, I learned to absorb their pain and do everything I could to take it away. I became addicted to taking care of them, and because they would be angry if I was in pain, I learned to completely ignore my own feelings. By the time I was in my late teens, I was miserable. I had a strong sense that there was something missing in my life, but I had no idea what it was. There had to be more to life than the constant anxiety, aloneness, and insecurity I felt. I went into psychoanalysis for 4.5 years, 4 days a week. I learned everything about my past and why I felt miserable, but not what to do about it. My analyst dismissed me when I was 23, saying, "You're analyzed." Believing that this meant I was healthy, and believing that getting married and having children would bring me the peace, security, and self-worth I wanted, I got married. When this didn't bring me the relief I sought, I tried many different therapists and different kinds of therapies to heal my anxiety. None of them worked for me. After my third child was born, I started to have brief experiences of something that lifted my anxiety, something that felt oddly familiar. That's when I remembered that, as a young child, I had a deep knowing that I was not my body, and that there was something more to life than what it presented on the surface. That's when I started on my spiritual search, a search to connect with a source of spiritual love, comfort, and wisdom. I had read enough about spirituality to know that this was likely a path I needed to learn more about. I acquired a guru and joined a meditation group. Again, I had momentary experiences of inner peace and joy from what I now knew was a spiritual connection, but I had no idea how to have this experience whenever I wanted it. It felt like it would just happen to me, like I didn't have any say about it. And fleeting connection wasn't enough for me. In fact, each time I felt it, I wasn't really sure it had happened. Was I just making it up because I wanted it so much? I wanted to be able to choose this experience, and I wanted to know for sure that I'm never alone, that spiritual help is always here for me. But how to know it? How to feel it? How to access it? Momentary experiences of spirit didn't resolve my anxiety and feeling of being so alone. So I was deeply motivated to learn how to do this. At-will connection. I spent many years trying to achieve at-will divine connection. For me, at-will means that I can have this connection anytime I want it, even all the time if that's what I want. I didn't want to feel that spirit was choosing me at random and that I just had to wait for this loving energy to come to me. I wanted to discover how to access this incredible wisdom, peace, joy, and unending source of energy at any moment. I became a psychotherapist, but after practicing traditional psychotherapy for 17 years, I wasn't happy with the results. Through all the different forms of therapy I'd had, through my spiritual search and work with clients, I had come to know that no true healing occurs without a spiritual connection. But I still didn't know how to have this at will, or how to help my clients have this. It was at that time that I started to pray for a teacher to come into my life who understood spiritual connection. And that's when I met Dr. Erica Chopich, who later became the co-creator of Inner Bonding with me and my best friend. Erica had half of what would be the inner bonding process, and I had the other half, so of course we had to meet. Soon after we met, Spirit guided us to creating the inner bonding process, which has now been evolving for 34 years. The insights of inner bonding. For me, and many of my clients, our unique gifts and deeper sense of purpose were buried under fears and false beliefs that we developed as we were growing up. We lost contact with the individual blueprint we each have regarding how to joyfully express our purpose on the planet. Perhaps you feel the same way. Because of my disconnection, I had to relearn that my purpose on the planet is to evolve in my ability to love and to creatively manifest the gifts I have been given. I did this by connecting with my inner and higher guidance. As I did, I also discovered that this is the purpose for all of us. Through the inner bonding process, you can regain this deeper knowing and become able to creatively express your unique gifts. Finding inner peace, safety, and self-worth comes from an internal shift in beliefs and in how we treat ourselves, rather than from external validation. When we have no way to heal the beliefs that limit us and cut us off from our divine guidance, the peace and joy of life elude us. It's these false beliefs that then fuel our self-rejecting and self-abandoning behaviors, which are the underlying causes of our suffering. I know from personal experience what it's like to live disconnected from myself and my spiritual guidance, as well as what it's like to live with it. For me, this has been the difference between suffering and joy. There is no one right form of divine guidance. We have many names for our spiritual source of love and wisdom: God, Goddess, Spirit, Higher Power, the Lord, Beloved, Jehovah, Yahweh, Holy Spirit, Nature, the Light, the Source, Universal Intelligence, Universal Life Force, the All, the Creator, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Guardian Angel, and inner or outer wise self or higher self. So use the words that work for you and connect through a form that resonates. A high frequency is essential for at-will divine connection. Divine connection has to do with frequency, and it was with Erica's help that I discovered how to attain the frequency I needed for at-will divine connection. I had discovered through reading, taking courses, and meeting some people who were key to my spiritual search that I needed to develop a high frequency, a high level of vibrancy, to connect to spirit. However, until I met Erica, I had no idea what it meant to have a high frequency or how to achieve this in an ongoing way. Our frequency is the rate at which our energy vibrates. Energy is the level of lightness and vitality we experience. For example, if you walk into a room full of closed, angry, rejecting, and blaming people, you might feel like you want to leave because of the heavy, dark energy in the room. If you stay, you might end up feeling anxious or depressed. That's a low frequency. But if you walk into a room of open and caring people, you will likely feel welcomed and relaxed due to the light, vibrant energy in the room. That's a high frequency. Another way of understanding frequency is by thinking about television or radio stations. Each station has a different frequency, which is what enables you to tune in to what you want. When you want to tune in to a television station, you turn to a particular channel which has a particular frequency. Just because you can't see the television or radio waves doesn't mean they aren't there. You accept their presence because the program you want comes on the television or radio. Just as you turn to a particular radio station or television channel to connect with what you want to hear or see, you can learn to turn to a particular inner frequency to connect with your personal source of divine guidance. And just as you don't have to believe that the radio and television waves are there, because you experience the result of tuning into your station, you don't have to believe that your divine guidance is here for you. You will know it is true when you experience it, and the exercises in this book will enable you to do that. One of the reasons most of us can't see spirit is because the energy of spirit moves very fast, which means that spirit exists at a higher frequency than we do. Because we are in our bodies, our frequency is slower and more earthbound than that of spirit. Imagine if our energy were moving as fast as the propeller of a plane or a hummingbird's wings. We would have a hard time seeing each other. However, we can learn to raise our frequency high enough to connect with spirit. Divine connection occurs when we are energetically available to the higher frequency of our divine guidance. And since we have free will, we get to choose, moment by moment, whether we want to be open or closed, welcoming or rejecting. And this choice is one of the two major aspects of what affects our frequency. It was when I finally discovered the two secrets for raising my frequency high enough that I found I could consistently experience at-will divine connection. This discovery dramatically changed my life. It gave me the ability to access the wisdom, creativity, and support of spirit to manifest my dreams. I'm excited to share these secrets with you. The first secret I discovered is that our frequency is greatly determined by the food we eat. And the second secret is that our frequency is also greatly determined by our thoughts and resulting actions. Junk foods and junk thoughts. Junk foods and junk thoughts lower our frequency to the point of spiritual disconnection. Many highly processed and packaged foods contain high levels of devitalized ingredients and additives, such as sugar, high fructose corn syrup, genetically modified organisms, GMOs, altered fats, preservatives, and colorings, as well as the residues of factory farming, such as antibiotics and pesticides. The low frequency of these ingredients greatly affects your frequency level, which makes it much harder to connect with your divine guidance. For more information about the foods that lower frequency, see my book, Diet for Divine Connection. The fact that these foods are created to taste good makes it challenging to avoid them. But how do you feel after eating a cheeseburger, a bag of French fries, and a large soft drink? If you were tuned into your feelings, you might notice feeling lethargic or depressed. Is the fleeting taste of these foods really worth getting sick or feeling anxious or depressed from their toxicity? Is it really worth having no access to your spiritual guidance? Junk thoughts come from our programmed, wounded ego mind. These thoughts come from the many false beliefs that we absorbed as we were growing up, such as beliefs about our worth, about what fills us and brings us joy, and about what we can and can't control. Junk thoughts create anxiety, depression, anger, guilt, shame, aloneness, and emptiness, all of which lower your frequency, making it almost impossible to access your divine guidance. The power of intent gives us the power to choose. Our intent determines whether we choose junk foods and junk thoughts, or healthy foods and thoughts based on truth. Our intent is our highest priority. That is, what is most important to us in any given moment. There are only two intentions available in any given moment: the intent to protect against pain with various forms of controlling behavior, the intent to learn about loving yourself and sharing your love with others. We've all learned many forms of controlling behaviors to avoid feeling our painful feelings. When we were growing up, big pain was too much for our little bodies to manage, so we learned various strategies to avoid feeling our pain. You might have learned any number of these as a child, adolescent, or young adult. To dissociate, staying focused in your mind and ignoring your body where your feelings are. To judge yourself or to get angry and blame someone else as a way to avoid your painful feelings and to make others responsible for your feelings of worth and safety. To be compliant by giving yourself up to avoid rejection. To use substances such as food, alcohol, nicotine, or drugs to numb your pain. To turn to television, video games, social media, shopping, sex, or porn to distract you from your painful feelings. All these, and many other ways of avoiding responsibility for learning from and taking loving care of your feelings, lower your frequency, making it difficult to connect with your spiritual guidance. But you now have the choice to open to learning about how to lovingly manage your feelings. You have the choice to learn about what your feelings are telling you and about the beliefs you absorbed that may be limiting you in your work, relationships, and ability to connect with your divine guidance. All your feelings have vital information for you about whether you are loving yourself and supporting your highest good, or whether you are abandoning yourself with your various addictive and controlling behaviors. The more you learn to compassionately open to learning with your feelings and how to heal the false beliefs that are creating much of your pain, the easier it becomes to connect with your spiritual guidance. Your intent determines your frequency. Your intent to protect against experiencing and learning from your painful feelings lowers your frequency, while your intent to learn about what your feelings are telling you and about what is loving to yourself and others raises your frequency. Learning to lovingly manage your feelings and learn from them rather than avoid them is not only vital to attaining at-will divine connection, but is also vital to being able to connect with others and create loving relationships. Abandoning ourselves to our various addictions and controlling behaviors is the major reason for relationship failure. As you will soon see, becoming aware of your intent and consciously setting the intention to learn rather than control is vital for achieving divine connection. Intent can be a subtle thing, so it's often difficult to be aware of it. Usually, the default setting in our brain, which became programmed as we were growing up, is to control in order to try to get love, avoid pain, and feel safe. This is part of our survival mechanism, and it is important to have self-compassion rather than self-judgment for our controlling behavior. We block learning when we judge ourselves. Self-judgment is itself a common form of control and a major way we lower our frequency. We don't learn well when we are anxious as a result of judging ourselves, so practice being accepting and curious about your intent to control as you learn to open to love. How to use this book. I'm excited to share the inner bonding process with you. This workbook offers a powerful process for healing the root causes of suffering. It will teach you how to love yourself rather than continue to abandon yourself, how to move beyond emotional dependency and attain emotional freedom, how to heal the underlying control issues stemming from self-abandonment that destroy relationships, and how to maintain a strong connection with your personal source of spiritual guidance. It enables...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?